we're talking about the history of humanity and how we have been influenced. And it's like we deserve to know that, and we deserve the technologies that are being suppressed.
We're being exposed to only so much information. We're not being fully educated. There's a difference.
What percentage of UAP sightings, in your belief, go unreported by our pilots?
I would estimate we're somewhere near 5% reporting, perhaps 5% reporting.
If there isn't anything, then why the push to cover it up?
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
By then, I had already accepted this new paradigm of there being, as Senator Inouye said, and I'm quoting, there's a secret government with its own Air Force,
its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself. Free from the law itself. Free from the law itself.
Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We have created a referendum known as the It Can't Be a Joke Revolution and Initiatives. This is a movement of thought and consciousness. Our mission is to educate and plant the seeds of curiosity surrounding the issues that we deem most critical, with the goal of freeing humanity from the powers that seek to hold us down.
We use this as an opportunity to not only expose the corruption in our country and world, but to discuss the importance of consciousness, self-awareness, and spiritual evolution as we seek to crack the riddles of life and our purpose on this planet.
Melissa,
Kevin,
let's blast off.
Let's. So I'm so excited to talk about today's topic. But first, I have a question for you, Kevin.
Shoot.
Has anyone ever told you that you have good energy, or they like being around you?
I have been told that before.
I kind of felt that when I first met you. You had positive, you were enthusiastic about life, you just had good vibes, you know? I'm sure a lot of people feel that way when they meet you.
That's how I felt about you.
And I got a lot of those kind of comments working in radio for 10 years. Oh, I really like the way I feel when I listen to you. A lot of comments I would get from people is, you make me feel like everything's going to be okay. When I was younger, I thought nothing of it, but that's a good quality to have, you know?
It is. And that's how I felt. Met you in the College of Education, then we worked together for a little while at Varsity.
Yeah.
And it was always with half the people there who were just crazy kooks. You were working, and it was like, yes.
Yeah, I know. I always liked seeing you and Matt. You guys are always smiling and happy.
Yeah.
And I believe that is your aura that surrounds you. Scientists refer to that as your electromagnetic field. So I want to tell you a little story about what really piqued my interest in this and meditation and prayer and stuff. So I was meeting with a hypnotherapist when I lived in the Twin Cities. I just wanted to go talk to someone who could have an in-depth conversation with me about my goals, my habits, and my beliefs, and then things I wanted to change, you know? So we'd have in-depth conversations, and then there would be a little bit of hypnosis. I would go into this room, cover myself with a blanket. It was dark. She had projections on the wall, and she would take all of the information we discussed as I relaxed into a meditative state and start talking to me through headphones about everything, all of it. So the topic of your electromagnetic field came up and how your brain receives information. So she told me the heart's electric field is about 60 times greater in amplitude than the electrical activity generated by the brain, and 5,000 times greater than the magnetic energy created by the brain. So your heart energy is what makes up that energetic field around you. And she said the heart and gut send messages to the nerve fibers that transmit that energy to the brain to provide information about various stimuli in your environment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was fascinating that it's really your heart and gut receiving that information first. You know, when you get a gut feeling about something and you can't explain it, you're like, I feel weird about this. I feel drawn to do this. Your intuition. So that electromagnetic field topic kind of solidified what your intuition is a little better for me. Because you also hear oh, my head's saying this, but my heart is saying that. So it's really your heart and your gut receiving the information first before it gets to your brain.
It's like the saying, what does your heart tell you?
Yes. And it also reminded me of that famous Einstein quote that imagination is more important than knowledge. So like we have a creative side and a critical side. And I'm bringing this up because it relates to today's topic of artificial intelligence. Intelligence can be artificial, I believe, to a degree. We've seen that with ChatGPT, AI illustration, and artificial intelligence can only go so far.
It's in the name, artificial.
Yes. So the definition of intelligence is the mental capacity to learn from experiences, adapt to new situations, understand and handle abstract concepts, and use knowledge to manipulate one's environment. This includes creativity, self-awareness, problem solving, and emotional knowledge. Some people say there's 12 different types of intelligence, and AI will never really have emotional intelligence. Creative intelligence, they're getting that information from our data, right? Mm-hmm. Existential intelligence, which is like pondering what our existence means. So now I want to give you the quick definition from the media of what artificial intelligence is. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a field of science concerned with building computers and machines that can reason, learn, and act in such a way that would normally require human intelligence, or that involves data whose scale exceeds what humans can analyze. A lot of CEOs and leaders of the AI industry claim that it will do these mundane tasks like working in factories, assembly lines. Some oligarchs claim, like Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, that they will take away a lot of these jobs. But since AI will soon be a multi-trillion-dollar market, in the end, it's just going to end up creating more jobs. Jensen Huang actually just revealed some of this information in one of his big conferences for NVIDIA, and he brought out those robots like we watched on the YouTube video. Musk's, yeah. And he was calling these robots humanoids, that's what they're calling them, and he was calling them his friends while he was revealing all this shit.
Trying to get it in our subconscious that they're going to be our friends. They're literally talking about having them watch your kids, walk your dogs, do all these things.
Do your grocery shopping.
That are supposed to be for, especially when it comes to like your kids or your dogs are a lot of our kids. Mm-hmm. Those are supposed to be times between you and your loved ones. Mm-hmm. And they want to make it normalize replacing that with a robot.
Yes. As if we would trust a robot to watch our kids or go take our dogs on a walk through the woods. Like, that's insane.
Because who's the Wizard of Oz behind it controlling it? What's the kill switch? They flip it on, and then we've all seen the movie I, Robot. We know how that goes. Mm-hmm. And we're pushing towards it. And we know that those movies are predictive programming.
Yeah. The movie that we started watching last night, Demolition Man from 1996, where they're, what is that called?
Cryogenic freezing or...
Yeah, they take these inmates, put a brain chip in them and freeze them and bring them back. And it takes place in Los Angeles that had burned down in the opening scene. And everything in that movie relates to the tone of what the New World Order is trying to do.
Yeah.
Predictive programming, like you said.
This is what it'll be like in the year 2030, 2040. Mm-hmm. And we're getting closer and closer every day. And it actually is getting closer and closer to that. Even though the majority of humanity, above 90%, does not want anything to do with AI. We're all against it. Against it.
Kevin and I have firsthand experience where it seems like AI is already taking over jobs and how it's shifting the world of employment. So before leaving radio, I started building my voiceover business, commercials, corporate campaigns. I do animation, video games, e-learning, and YouTube narration. You probably experienced some YouTube videos or documentaries that use AI technology where it sounds like a real voice, and it is a real voice, but it's sampling someone's real voice with AI, and then it sounds more robotic when we listen, or they'll pronounce a word one way, and then later on in the doc, they'll pronounce it a different way.
Anunnaki. That's that always stuck out. Mm-hmm. They'll say it normally, then the next time, Anunnaki. And
yes.
It's like, this is not a real person talking about this.
No, it's called text to speech. So I started getting all of these offers to do text to speech gigs, which is basically where a creative director will meet with two voice talents via Zoom or Source Connect, and they will record two people for 2 hours, sometimes 4. Sometimes it's a project that is going to be 16 hours total of content. And what they want you and this other talent they hire is to have a natural conversation. And the creative director is just there to like lead you, make sure you don't, trail off too far. And not only are they recording voices for AI, but with these videos, they want to record our movements, our natural movements as we're talking.
It's so weird. And
the voiceover industry and the acting industry overall is obviously totally against AI taking these jobs.
They'll say, hey, we'll pay you $2,000. And you're at first, someone who really needs the money, they're like, oh, sweet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But in reality, it's going to take away from every other future job that you could get. Because that voice, they'll be able to use that whenever they want. You're signing over your voice to them.
Yes, I know. And they do pay well, those jobs. It was tempting. I wanted to take one on just to like learn, research what they do and talk about it. But I was like, I cannot let them have my voice.
Right.
And I wanted you to talk a little bit about, some of the jobs you've had and how you kind of figured out, what was that one job that you applied for?
The Zoom Info is pushing hard on the AI thing, and it's all over their website, their co-pilot program. Mm-hmm. And basically, they deal with data, and it's the synthesis of huge, enormous amounts of data in seconds, rather than what would take a human maybe hours or whatever, way longer. Mm-hmm. And they're pushing that for their customers and their clients to buy for their big corporations. It's a big corporations game. Mm-hmm. Every tech company is trying to get AI into their portfolio. And I remember they want to get it in because they don't want to fall behind. They don't want to be the business that didn't pursue it, because then they'll probably go out of business because all the other ones are doing it. And that's exactly what Musk was saying when we were listening to him. He was saying it's a bad thing, but it's inevitable. And now he's pushing for it so hard.
And the fact that he says it's inevitable is already trying to program people into thinking, it's going to happen no matter what, even though it doesn't have to.
It seems the AI and the huge infrastructure that they're pushing for it with in the government, that it's going to be a huge surveillance technology that it will they already
mass surveillance complete. They already have
tracking
it though.
And then now AI though, they'll be able to synthesize like everyone on the planet at once and know exactly where everyone is at once.
Yep.
The phones, at some point we want to get rid of all smart devices. We want to go Amish. That's the end goal.
Well, we might have
to go Amish. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
And because the phones, when you look in the privacy policy and when they talk about data, the microphones on your phone or your computer, whatever, they can take your conversations and then they'll use that data to advertise to you products on Amazon or whatever when you pull up Google. Or it's just using it to understand what are people talking about? What are they, what are people awake to?
OpenAI and ChatGPT, all of these companies whose parent companies are essentially owned by Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Geomining International, all of those oligarch companies, they came out with some statement about Reddit. Reddit was under attack for releasing, information to OpenAI or something like that. So Reddit is really, this free online forum and platform. But the company and the investors are all the same people that are investing and owning AI companies, technology companies. So all of that information on Reddit is used to train AI.
They own everything. They do. And then BlackRock is the biggest shareholder of Vanguard. Vanguard's the biggest shareholder of BlackRock.
I know.
And they all work in cahoots with each other. They're going door to door in LA. They're trying to buy up people's homes. Their places have burned down. So they do land grabs, like what happened in North Carolina, and the people didn't get the help at all what they needed, and that they released the dam. The Duke Energy released their dam to go destroy all that area, which is, we're learning that it's on top of lithium and they want the lithium batteries. So they just do these land grabs and destroy all the area. It's going to take a collective group of humanity to wake up, say no, and stop playing into their money laundering scheme, their taxes, their theft of everything that they're stealing from us to keep us as slaves.
And the bill that just got signed for $500 billion in AI infrastructure, investing in that's happening in Houston, Texas. And I wonder where they're going to build that after all of those crazy fires that destroyed all the farmland. And I wonder where that's going to be.
Right.
You know?
One could only wonder where they're
Yeah.
going to put that.
It's a mystery. So Kevin knows that I've had a very strong dislike for Elon Musk since I became aware of his stupid fake Teslas and then Starlink and all these satellite surveillance technologies. So basically, Elon Musk is the poster boy for AI and humanoids and robots that are going for $30,000. Little bit of noteworthy information on Elon Musk. On his Wikipedia page, it says he's from a wealthy South African family and he attended a university in Pretoria in South Africa, but then he became a citizen of Canada because his mom, May Musk, was born there. That's where his grandfather lived. And then, eventually tried to go to college there, but transferred to the University of Pennsylvania. He came to the US in like 94, 95. He actually moved to California to attend Stanford University, but never went to classes, or I don't even think he enrolled. But he received a bachelor's degree in economics and physics.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm. And then he started his first company called Zip2. And then his next startup was PayPal with Peter Thiel, who I'll talk about a little later. He's the CEO, and he was one of the original investors in PayPal. So there's all of these connections.
How soon after college did he start the startups?
A year later.
Where did he get the funding?
$300 million from a company called Compaq. Compaq was an American computer manufacturer that hailed as the first maker of IBM-compatible portable computers and quickly grew into the world's best-selling personal computer brand during the 80s and then the 90s. So Compaq was founded by managers who worked for a company called Texas Instruments, which is one of the top 10 semiconductor companies worldwide, with most of its shares owned by Vanguard. So that's who invested in it.
Obviously, he has the connections that were there prior to, went from birth, probably.
Yes.
No one just gets 300 mil.
No.
You don't just, you could have a great idea, but when you're a peasant, they don't give a shit. They work within their own groups, their own cult.
Which is getting smaller and smaller, it seems. And that brings me to my next point, a little bit of history on the Musk family. This helped me really understand the ushering in of AI governance, and it starts with his grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, who was South Africa's longest-serving foreign minister under apartheid. His grandfather was actually born in Minnesota in 1902, so he was an American-born Canadian South African. Chiropractor, aviator, and politician. He became involved in Canadian politics, backing the Technocracy movement, which was founded about 1930. Have you heard Technocracy in the media lately?
Yes. So his grandpa was they talk about Musk right now is like the leader of the Technocracy and moving that forward. So his grandpa.
Exactly. So Technocracy, if this is new to you, here's the definition. Technocracy is the science of social engineering, the scientific operation of the entire social mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population of whatever continent you're on. They're going to try to absorb Canada to be the North American.
It's been said, Trump, he wants, the 51st state and then Greenland.
They go on to say, for the first time in human history, it will be done as a scientific, technical, and engineering problem. And they stated back in the 1930s, there's going to be no place for politics, politicians, finance, financiers, racketeers, and Technocracy's explanation of its plan states that the method of operating the social mechanism of the North American continent. So I think back in the 1930s, they were calling it the North American continent. So the method of operating the social mechanism of the North American continent is now mandatory because we've passed from a state of actual scarcity into the present status of potential abundance, in which we are now held to an artificial scarcity forced upon us in order to continue a price system, which can distribute goods only by a means of a medium of exchange. So they're pushing their agenda. We are supposed to be living in abundance, and if we keep going off of this price system for too long, we're never going to achieve actual abundance. And that's so weird because lately I've been hearing Elon Musk talk about abundance in his interviews. AI is going to give us abundance. And they always throw that term scarcity in there to herd the sheep as well.
When in reality, most people, they have a yard. Mm-hmm. And why we push for people to start gardening and farming there, even if it's just a quarter of an acre. Mm-hmm. If everyone's doing it, there's no more worry about food You don't have to depend on others for food. And the World Economic Forum, that's the New World Order. If anyone's wondering, that's what they want. That's what they say.
Yes.
They want us to eat bugs. They're trying to, whatever her name is.
Well, they already put bugs
Nicole
in.
Kidman. She has that video of her eating all the different bugs and
oh god,
and
really?
Yeah, it's disgusting. And she's so weird and gross. And trying to normalize that. The eating of mealworms, and they're alive too. And it's like, you're gross.
Well, cochineal, mealworms, all of those bugs are dried up and ground into a powder. Cochineal is the red dye, like red dye number 5. It's used in Heinz ketchup, like
and
frosting, anything.
Red.
Yeah. So that's already in there. And
protein powder.
Protein
that's
powder.
full of bugs.
If you ever see soy lecithin on the package of your muscle powder drink or the boxed cookies you buy at the store, soy lecithin is a powder promoted as a filler.
It's so gross.
So Technocracy states that price and abundance are incompatible. The greater the abundance, the smaller the price. And they state that in real abundance, there can be no price. So you have to abandon the interfering price control and substitute a scientific method of production and distribution so abundance can be achieved.
But it's still always controlled by the banks, right?
Yes,
If
of course.
That's the core issue when you look at every single thing that we talk about. It's all going back to the banks, the Rothschild bankers.
Yep. The Federal Reserve is what is going to have say over cryptocurrency, and then they're
central
called
bank digital currency.
Yeah. So it says Technocracy will distribute by means of a certificate of distribution available to every citizen from birth to death. The technate will encompass the entire American continent from Panama to the North Pole because the natural resources and the natural boundary of this area make it an independent, self-sustaining geographical unit. So one of the founders was Howard Scott, and he said those who create a civilization will eventually dominate it. He had this famous speech in Winnipeg, and he stated the engineers and mechanics created this civilization and will eventually dominate it. Technocracy was building a technological army of the functionally competent, and everyone that was part of this movement dressed in gray, and they all drove gray cars.
That's what they're pushing in the modern look.
I know.
Right?
Aesthetic.
Gray.
Everything's white.
No color.
Gray, beige, beige on beige, gray on light gray, slate on
10
gray.
different shades of beige. 50 shades of beige. Could be the new modern booklet for designing your house. 50 shades of beige.
Totally. So this meant there would be no need for democracy. All the normal functions of government like education, health, sanitation, public safety, they'd be run by the experts chosen by their peers. So doctors would vote for the person in charge of the healthcare system. All of the educators who run the schools in their little technate. And then they predicted in the 30s that this is a cabinet that's going to be made up of about 100 of these experts. And they would select a continental director to oversee the whole thing. And people at this time thought this was crazy. They were against it because it reeked of, authoritarianism, right?
They're controlling.
At their core.
It is in the end.
Yeah.
It's the authority. All of it is technocracy, a new world order, everything that they're trying to set up. It all in the end still is authoritarian. It's not people. The individual, you have no rights. It's the cabal at the top, the authoritarian rule that is making all the calls and calling the shots. Mm-hmm. And I'll say it again. If we have free energy technology, which it's there, and we know they're hoarding it, and we know people have come out with it. Mm-hmm. And I'll see stuff in the media. This university just, they just had a breakthrough in this, and it could be a step closer. It's like it's there already. So the people in power, if we have that, everybody's free. And then you get the means to defend yourself and you protect yourself. And if everyone does that, then we claim our freedom.
Society hasn't been bred and programmed that way. You're set up to be completely reliant on the government. The way they back this up is by saying there's too many incompetent people in charge, or that these people make too many bad decisions because they lack the necessary expertise, or they were motivated by profit, ambition, or something else that would lead them astray.
This same machine that they're trying to set up with technocracy, though, is still all motivated by profit.
Exactly.
There's still the same group going to be getting richer and richer.
Yes. That just basically sounds like the message that they've been giving us our whole lives.
Well, the message here in America, too, is that you work. You work. They say you have all these freedoms and you have the right to choose. If you don't, though, you will be homeless. You won't have a home. The idea here in America is you work till you're 60. And for everyone that's our age right now, we've been in the workforce for after college, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting here thinking, oh my God, we got to do another 30 years of this.
Yeah.
Another 30 years. They can make it a little less unbearable if we move to a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
That would be so game changing for everybody.
It would, that one day, and then you can work 32 hours a week. You don't need to work 40. That is majority of your day because, they're 24 hours in the day, but 8 of them you're sleeping. 8 of them you're at work.
Well, then you're getting ready for work.
Exactly.
You're doing that, or you're driving then. Add all that time into it. You get a slight little sliver.
Yeah. And when Elon Musk was in conversation about, everyone's worried about these robots taking their jobs, and the issues with humanity is going to be they're going to struggle to find meaning if they don't have their jobs. So he's posing that as like, what are we going to do about that?
That's a joke.
Yeah, that's a joke.
Everyone will discover their meaning if they're not forced to work. Grow your food. And then you'd be able to do whatever you want.
Be with your family.
But they also want to, you see it happening in England and Europe. And what they will still try to push here is no more private car ownership. That's something that's in California. And then they're taxing people on the miles they drive. I think it was somewhere in Europe. This new city that they built. Mm-hmm. There's 1 car per 3 households and they share the car.
Is it an EV?
I'm sure.
Vehicles?
That's another huge joke, people.
Yeah.
It's charged on the same power grid that's burning the fossil fuels.
They probably use the electromagnetic field in ways that we know about. They just aren't giving it to us.
They're manipulating all Tesla's technology for manipulating the weather.
For something that was supposed to be
Wi-Fi.
Free. If the digital currency happens, eventually they're saying if you don't have the chip, you don't get internet.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Most people, they will not, in America at least, they're not going to get a chip.
No.
That's absolute kook talk.
I know.
They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't care if you shut us out of society. Mm-hmm. We will not comply to that kind of psychosis. No. There's no way in hell.
There's no way in hell.
And same thing with the shots. And if they're trying to push more shots, there's no way in hell because we've all lost complete trust in the system. So they can keep trying to push these things, but do not comply.
So in 1940, Haldeman, Elon Musk's grandfather, he renamed himself Joshua Haldeman /10450-1. You know how Elon Musk's kids are named like numbers and symbols?
One of them was named Axel, right?
He has like 12 kids or something like that, but some of them have names that are like symbol 015 this. I'm like, what?
I'm pretty sure Musk had a post once just saying that he's an alien.
So Haldeman stated Technocracy Incorporated is preparing for a new social order that is to come. He wrote, if you're a technocrat, are you doing all that you can to extend the organization and discipline yourself to meet its objectives? And Technocracy issued an isolationist statement proclaiming that it was unequivocally opposed to the conscription of the manpower of Canada for any war anywhere. So they come out against the war, and then on October 8th, 1940, in Vancouver, Haldeman was arrested by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on charge of membership in an illegal organization. Technocracy Incorporated was apparently banned because they thought, okay, these guys are a bunch of kooks. But I don't think that ever really stopped because you just stated, this is the new world order.
His grandpa was arrested, was the one who was arrested.
Yes.
But he was saying they don't agree with war.
Yep.
Well, that's not as bad.
He started this movement that didn't really pick up called Total War and Defense. He declared himself an anti-communist, criticized the movement's declaration of support for the Soviet Union following the German invasion in 1941. And then Haldeman's son-in-law, Errol Musk, claimed in 2024 that Haldeman sympathized with Nazi Germany during World War II. He came out with this book, The Protocols of the Leaders of Zion or something like that. And then he got pushing the idea.
Who came out with that?
Haldeman, his
the
grandfather.
Protocols of Zion? Of the Elders of Zion?
Yes.
That's the New World Order.
And that is they call it the biggest conspiracy theory documentation, the biggest in the world.
That's the blueprints of it, of what they're trying to do for total domination and control.
Yeah.
The Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
So they painted this picture of him being a crazy conspiracy theorist, although this is what they kept doing.
Yeah,
right?
So, well, if they're just writing it along with their agenda, it's still what they want to do. It's the control piece.
Yes, and Haldeman, he was a political figure in Canada. He joined the Social Credit Party of Canada and served as the Social Credit Party of Saskatchewan until 1948. He was their leader. And you know what happened in 1948? Of great significance to our culture, politics, structure, society. And that was apartheid.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you are enjoying our show and support the It Can't Be a Joke mission, please consider leaving us a review on your streaming platform, following us on X, YouTube, Instagram, and Rumble, and showing your support by purchasing one of the many items we have for sale on our merch shop, which can be found in our link tree on our social media sites.
We're always looking to work with like-minded individuals, so if you're interested in working together or sponsorship opportunities, shoot us a message or email. Thanks again for all of your support.
Now, back to the episode.
So apartheid was a system of institutionalized racial segregation that existed in South Africa and Southwest Africa from 1948 into the early 1990s, although the economic legacy of social effects of apartheid continue. It was characterized by an authoritarian political culture, which ensured that South Africa was dominated politically, socially, and economically by the nation's minority white population. Haldeman was a supporter of South Africans' apartheid policies and the ruling National Party of South Africa, telling a reporter for this newspaper, Die Transvaaler newspaper, the natives are very primitive and they must not be taken seriously. Some are quite clever in routine job, but the best of them cannot assume responsibility and will abuse authority. The present government of South Africa knows how to handle the native question. These people are stripped from their rights, from education, they're illiterate.
Setting
all
them
of
up
that
for
is
failure.
yeah.
It's a control thing too. You're putting it out there to keep them in that position, not giving anyone a chance to control them.
Exactly. I was reading in his latest biography written by Walter Isaacson, Musk dedicated a short portion to his grandfather, who was the first to fly a plane from South Africa to Antarctica. Interesting, right? And that his sense of risk and adventure in his grandfather is what inspired him most. He thought, my grandfather's so radical and risky. He just picked up and moved to South Africa. Okay.
Like he didn't have all the funds and means and the plan behind it. Like it was just on a whim. And then
Musk also quoted in the book that, unfortunately, South Africa was still being ruled by a white apartheid regime, when in reality it was just being established. He moved there in 1950.
And was part of it.
And then Mae Musk, Elon's mother, she's an entrepreneur and a model. She was in Beyonce's music video, like she's in the cabal.
She's an Illuminati rat.
She claims the inspiration to move there came to her parents after having met missionaries who'd been to South Africa, who told them how beautiful it was. A minister convinced them to move there, an Anglican minister they met at an international trade fair in Canada. So I'm assuming he discovered the business of mining and trade in South Africa and probably was already a part of that upon moving there.
In what trade again?
So they were living in Canada. They have this big annual international trade fair of goods. And just like in Arizona, they have their big mineral crystal annual trade show every year where you can go buy them at wholesale value, the quartz and all of that stuff. So
Mae Musk and her father, who was...
They were in Canada.
When did they get involved in the mining? Was that...
I think they were already a part of it. So Geode Mining International is a big corporate company owned by all the people we listed off. They invest in Donald Trump's big media company. So that's in Canada.
Okay.
And so I think there was trades going on, Canada, US, South Africa. I'll get into it a little bit more, but I'm just putting two and two together. They would go to these trade shows. Well, what were they doing there? What were they doing at the trade shows? What goods were they met some South African that convinced him to move to South Africa at this fair, right?
Right.
They were already in cahoots. But I wanted to bring up the two most foundational apartheid laws. One, forcing all South Africans to register their race with the government, and the other one was the Group Areas Act, which segregated housing in urban areas. That wasn't enacted until 1950, less than a month before Haldeman announced his move there. In other words, I think Haldeman was choosing to move into a system of regimented racial subjugation that was just being born, right?
Yeah, right at that time, same time. Mm-hmm. There is a business move
Yes. And so his grandfather flew his own plane. In 1932, there were 25 expeditions that were launched to find the lost city, which is known to be in the Kalahari Desert in Africa. It was headed out from Uppington to research these desert lands, flying over the area in reconnaissance aircraft and subsequently suggesting a number of explanations. Like, in other words, no one has ever found the lost city. But Haldeman flew his plane to the Kalahari Desert, which covers Botswana, the eastern third of Namibia, and the northernmost part of the Northern Cape province in South Africa. So he was flying his plane there and then to Antarctica and doing trades back to California. Interesting.
Flying all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Elon Musk just thought, wow, my grandfather was the first to fly his plane from South Africa to Antarctica. He was so risky and adventurous. What an inspiration. Bullshit.
It's part of his story.
And then mining concessions started being integrated in 1961 when Botswana's British colonial rulers created the 20,000 square mile game reserve. So 5,000 or so Bushmen who lived there were given the right to remain in perpetuity. Have you heard about how the Bushmen were being pushed out? It's been an issue,
Yeah.
And then there were all of these laws, the people in government saying there can't be all of this hunting. We got to put constrictions on all of that. So they were taking away business from the people who lived there.
It's colonialism.
Yes. In 2002, about 2,000 Bushmen or more were forced out from the region's largest protected area, the Central Kalahari Game Reserve of Botswana. Also been stories of diamonds hidden beneath the Bushmen's lands. Botswana is the world's biggest producer of diamonds and has relied on precious stones to drive economic growth. Diamonds account for about 60% of government revenue, and throughout the 1970s and 80s, diamonds helped the economy grow at about 13% a year.
Blood diamonds off the backs of child labor. The slave trade today still is going strong in Africa.
Exactly.
It is. There's videos that are posted.
Yeah,
with
that's why
kids and women and just people that are literally being chained up and sold as slaves. It's never ended.
It's never ended. And then oil drilling has been another concern. Oil companies started bulldozing forests and animal conservations in Namibia. So they just started destroying all of this land.
These politicians are also the leaders of those countries. They just take their payday. They sell their people out. And they don't give two flying Fs about it. They just sell their people out, take the land. They take their money. They go buy their mansion and they retire. It's so sad that it's just corruption and greed. But they want to pit all the peasants against each other as the distraction when it's like, look at who's controlling it all. Please. It's not your fellow man here. We're all peasants.
I know.
That's what people need to understand. You got to look at the people who are controlling it and pushing the narrative, mainstream media, Hollywood. It's exactly what they want. Look at the new Ben & Jerry's ad. They're so part of it, and it's so pathetic.
And you know what?
It's so stupid.
At the World Economic Forum, which I want to touch on in a little bit, you know what they never talk about at those things is trans rights. What are we going to do about human trafficking? They talk about technology.
It's money.
And AI and AI governance. That's what they talk about at the World Economic Forum. Not these stupid ass distractions that they feed us.
They say it. They put it out there. They literally say it. We're the ones who are going to do it. Klaus Schwab.
His book is called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Elon Musk keeps saying it's the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
You guys are all just saying that. No one agrees.
In 2014, there was a $4.9 billion diamond mine that opened in the Central Kalahari Game Reserve. The Botswana government claimed there were no plans to mine anywhere inside the reserve. They were told to leave soon after diamonds were discovered in the 80s. And the Botswana government, they tried to deny this. They basically just forced evictions, and they did it in the name of conservation.
They're NGOs. We're going to protect the land. No, they just do land grabs.
Yep. Elon Musk, who was born in South Africa, he is of British and Pennsylvania Dutch ancestry. His mother, May Musk, who I mentioned, was born in Saskatchewan. That's how he became a citizen of Canada. His father, Errol Musk, is a South African electromechanical engineer, pilot, sailor, consultant, emerald dealer, and property developer. That's on Wikipedia, FYI.
Emerald dealer.
Yeah, Elon Musk got his U.S. citizenship in 1994 when he moved to Palo Alto. So he's fronting all these companies like SpaceX to put thousands of satellites up in space for the Internet of Bodies. It's for the autonomous cars agenda, Neuralink, connecting your brain to computers.
It's the spy network. There's so many satellites up there.
And
there's not a single square inch of the Earth that's not being surveilled by their satellites.
Elon Musk keeps calling it the fourth industrial revolution. He has all of these New World Order ideologies. Universal income, that's New World Order.
What about all the people that are at his trade shows when he's like, and they're all clapping and cheering? It's like, why are you putting all your faith right here? Don't you see how weird it is? They're all there just smiling and, oh my God, look at the little robot. Cool. Oh. Look at the self-driving car.
And a lot of the investors and shareholders of Neuralink include Google, Vi Capital, which is run by CEO Peter Thiel, who co-founded PayPal with Elon Musk. He's one of the biggest investors of Neuralink. A lot of these private parent companies own AI companies. Another big investor of all of this is ChatGPT. So why would ChatGPT be one of the biggest investors of Neuralink if it's not a study to control humanity and usher in AI governance?
Did you find the information about ChatGPT's whistleblower that quote unquote committed suicide?
No.
I think it's ChatGPT's whistleblower.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And they say he committed suicide, but obviously he did not. And there's something going on with ChatGPT, the $500 billion
infrastructure.
AI, yeah.
Elon Musk is basically Trump's right-hand man. You hear more about him and Trump than Vance.
It'll play out at some point. JD Vance is probably going to...
He'll disappear and it'll be him and Elon Musk, right?
I mean, if something happens, JD Vance might be taking over to initiate some kind of takeover, or who knows. They want to distract you and get your hopes up about this good thing that may happen, when in reality, they're going to achieve what they want one way or another, whether it's on the left side, how they're pushing it and what they were doing in the takeover, or the right side, disguised as it's the sheep in wolf's clothing that we're going to we're going to get rid of it. We're going to take them all down, when the same agenda is going to be accomplished just through different means, and that they're going to get the support of so many people to get in there, but it's still going to be accomplished one way or another.
Oh, you know what came out yesterday? PayPal was fined $2 million, which is a drop in the bucket. They hacked into their system, PayPal, and stole social security numbers of 35,000 people. That article came out yesterday. They have all your information.
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
Was it MasterCard? One of the things got hacked this year in like 85 million. It was Comcast, Verizon, or MasterCard or something. One of the big Bank of America.
Bank of America.
And all the information. There's been so many leaks and hacks and everything that it's all out there anyway. Mm-hmm. It's all there on the dark web.
Musk is given the role to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Stargate is a joint venture between SoftBank Group, OpenAI, Oracle Corporation, and MGX that will invest $500 billion over the next 4 years to build AI infrastructure, with an initial $100 billion already in the books.
And how about Palantir? Palantir is and JD Vance is a huge role there on the drones, the drone technology, the AI swarm of drones and surveillance, and that's Palantir. Palantir Technologies, just that they've secured several contracts involving drones. Tactical Intelligence Targeting Access Node, that's Titan. Maven Smart Systems, MSS. AI and ML research. These technologies use AI and machine learning to collect and disseminate sensor data from drones to support mission command and long-range precision fire. Peter Thiel is a co-founder of Palantir Technologies. Both Musk and Thiel co-founded PayPal and are part of the technocrat network known as the PayPal Mafia.
And at the end of the day, they're all owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Charles Schwab Investments.
Larry Fink, these two journalists, reporters, investigative guys they found Larry Fink in Davos, and they were following for like 8 minutes, and Larry Fink has his bodyguards, and they were asking him all these questions, and Larry Fink wouldn't even answer a single one. He didn't say anything. One of them pushed him at one point, and Larry Fink then went and took a picture of one of the guys too and smiled. The guy's like, "What are you going to do with that picture?" And I'm happy with those guys going to try to expose the corruption in those corrupt people.
Then there's all of this news about the intensifying war over AI chipsets. So there's new tariffs, intellectual property restrictions, supply chain sanctions, geopolitical battles. They claim that, AI's future is quietly slipping under the radar, and there's this scarcity of data available for these powerful chipsets to process. So all of these tariffs happening, I believe, really have something to do with importing, exporting goods for AI. At the beginning of 2025, Elon Musk pointed out that AI companies have run out of data for training their models and have exhausted the sum of human knowledge. There's an unlimited amount of data in our existence, in the universe. So why would they be saying this?
Scarcity of data. It's a joke.
API stands for the Application Programming Interface. An API is an interface that software developers use to programmatically interact with software components or resources outside of their own code. A simpler definition, an API is the part of a software component that is accessible to other components. So the Weather Bureau's software system contains daily weather data. The weather app on your phone talks to this system via APIs and shows you daily weather updates on your phone. So that's another thing that they're going to use for mind control. You remember that patent,
subliminal acoustic manipulation of the nervous system?
Yes, that one. An article I read last night. Taiwan only expects a small impact from any tariffs imposed by the incoming government of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on semiconductor exports that give them technological superiority.
They're huge in the microchip.
Taiwan is the world's largest contract chip maker, which is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC. And it's the link in the global technology supply chain for companies like Apple, Microsoft, etc.
Everything that's run on a microchip, which isn't everything.
And they claim that they're going to help companies relocate supply chains to the United States as needed in areas where tariffs are going to be high. It's all for AI governance. They also state at the end of that article that we should be able to develop the aerospace supply chain industry in the United States and do some joining up with the U.S. aerospace companies so that some of Taiwan's aerospace research and development centers can be moved there.
China wants to take Taiwan. They're trying to.
China and America own. That's why I think the whole TikTok thing, they portray it as like freedom of speech and this and that, but it's about control of AI data.
TikTok, everyone's complaining and crying about that. It's like
As
TikTok's one of is the biggest. That's the one that censors our videos about weather manipulation and chemtrails more than any other platform. TikTok they took our thing down, our most recent one that we have on X.
Yeah.
We're just filming it and talking about it. They took it down within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And the caption of it was just, let's say how long this stays up. And there was I didn't put chemtrail.
What was it, 20 minutes we lasted?
It was, literally, they took it down immediately, like 5 seconds.
Oh, wow.
There was no words like chemtrail or anything in the title. But like in the video, we're up at the top of Pac Manondak. We're filming the trails and talking about it. And that AI will just disseminate the data and then just say, oh, they're talking about this, take it down. It's such a joke. The freedom of thought and theory is not allowed there if you talk about things that they don't want you to.
Reddit is another company that supposedly disrupted OpenAI for raising their prices on API pricing. But it's all of these companies trading with each other. Elon Musk outed OpenAI the other day, and I'm like, 49% of the shares in their equity is owned by Microsoft. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You're just spewing lies.
Just for their agenda. Mm-hmm. That's all.
So one of my biggest issues with Trump, one of Trump's biggest assets is his own company, Trump Media and Technology Group Corporation. Their biggest investors and shareholders are BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and Geode Capital Management, a hedge fund based in Boston, Massachusetts. The top stock holdings of Geode Capital Management are Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia. At the start of 2022, Geode surpassed $1 trillion in assets under management due to the popularity of index funds. Nvidia, the stock market trading, all of that's owned by all these companies we're talking about. Like, that is what's happening. I just want people to look at it with a bird's eye view.
And know that it's just a few people that hold all this money.
I think that's related to Trump signing orders for the AI infrastructure. That's for control of the grid, controlling what you say, what you do, what you think. So the three most important bills I thought were for America to become the AI capital of the world, for America to be the worldwide face of cryptocurrency, And 3, bringing in a science technology commission, Technocracy. They're trading and hoarding all of this information in the race to AI governance. And like you mentioned, the other bill they passed right after that one. And here's the bill to release the files on JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. So everyone's brain goes to that and forgets about those 3 important things that they signed right before that. And that's a distraction.
Where is it on the front page of who was responsible for all of it? Come out and do a whole press briefing on it, expose them. Mm-hmm. Hey, how about 9/11? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Let's get that out there. Let's get all of it out there. Like, there should be no CIA. There should be no FBI.
But when they talk about getting rid of the IRS, the FBI, it's because it's going to be AI control. Their whole thing about you don't need democracy, you don't need politicians, it's because they want to, they're portraying it as we're going to get rid of these assholes, we don't need the CIA, they're so this and that, but all of those people who are in charge of that,
well, they're still going to be the people controlling the AI who are getting the data they want, and then they're going to go tell their drones to do whatever they want. You just got to not comply. You got to fight it. You just have to decide, do you want to fight or do you want to roll over and just let them do whatever they want and just get by? Mm-hmm. Do you want to fight or do you want to resist? We want to fight and we won't comply. So when the time comes, everyone's going to have to choose. I don't know when it will be. Will it be this month? Will it be next year? 3 years from now? Mm-hmm. What about the power grid? What about, are they going to fix that up with AI? Well, are they going to give us free energy? Well, Trump's talking all about, there's going to be so much electricity. There's going to be so much electricity.
Well, he also has been saying how our grid is so weak. And Elon Musk said this in a conversation interview recently, that if the power grid goes out, Starlink won't. So they're going to program the people into getting the chip because Trump keeps saying our structure's so weak, it could go out.
Well, they don't want this many people.
Yeah.
It's too many people to control and manage.
But if Trump's
saying
500
million,
they're not going to invest in our structure right now. They want it to go down. So then everyone's going to be, you'll still have Neuralink. Elon Musk is our savior. You're still connected to the internet. You'll still be able to use your phone if you have Neuralink.
But how are you going to charge stuff?
Well,
it comes down to power. If the grid's down, then they're going to use that as a huge $1 trillion investment to rebuild the power grid. And then they get their own.
They'll have it set up already. You know, they go searching for the lost city, for underground civilizations, and they find ancient ruins and stuff. They're building their cities underneath every continent.
Yeah, underground. They're burrowing down there like ants. Mm-hmm. They have drills that are so big, and when they drill, it gets so hot that on the outside, it just like pretty much turns into solid rock. So they drill, and then it's like, so you don't need to build a foundation in there. It burrows the hole and is so hot on the outside. They have these huge caverns underground that they can live in.
And that's where
but none of us have it. They don't tell us.
And isn't that where they are putting the carbon dioxide?
Yeah, they store it down there. And then you have up in the sky, we'll have an episode about this. We'll dive into the Anunnaki, why they wanted gold from Earth. The Anunnaki are, we were talking about the fallen angels and everything. Those are the fallen angels. But their planet, their home planet of Nibiru, needed their sun was devastating the planet. They needed to reflect some of the solar radiation. They used gold and they spread it up into millions of little pieces up in the atmosphere to reflect the sunlight. Right now, stratosphere aerosol injection with the aluminum, they're just doing the same thing here. First off, it poisons the earth and makes us sick, and all the other stuff they put up there, whatever they want.
Heavy
and then it
metals.
gets into our food supply, our farmland. It makes it so you can't farm as easily. But if they're putting it up there with the sun's activity as of late, are they spraying it to try to prevent the slowdown, the magnetic pole shift, which is another topic I want to talk about, which is basically the shifting of the Earth's poles. And if you look at the North Pole and how much it's moved over the past 50 years, moving extremely fast rates, and it's stuff that, you know, we can't stop. But maybe they're trying to slow that down, shielding some magnetic rays that come from the sun. It's just
keep
crazy.
Humanity down, and they claim the $1 trillion industry of AI is going to save humanity. That's a bunch of bullshit.
If he's putting $500 billion towards this, what are you going to do with it, dude? Are you going to have it farm and like give us all food forever and then like run our energy and give us free energy? What are you going to do with it?
The $500 billion infrastructure is the new structure when the grid goes down. That's what it is. And they're telling farmers that AI is going to be able to do shit for you. You won't have to farm anymore.
It's crazy. If AI is doing that type of stuff, farming, is food free?
No. No.
Is food going? So that's the thing. No one wants it. If you're doing $500 billion for AI, what is it going to give us? What is it going to do? That's what needs to be answered. What's it going to do? If it's not giving us free energy and food, then fuck off.
Yeah.
We don't need this crazy stuff. It's so corrupt and weird.
I don't think humanity will. I think they'll stand up and fight against it. That's my hope. Remember hearing a while back about getting rid of the penny? So useless. I feel like I heard about that like 10 years ago. And in my mind, I guess if we don't use pennies, like somewhere in the UK, they round up now. They don't have pennies, they use nickels. Like they ask you to round up your change at the store to donate to this nonprofit organization to save the children. All of that goes back to those corporate companies. But yesterday, Fox Business reported Doge targets the penny in cost-cutting mandate, stating it will cost taxpayers less because it costs more money to produce a penny than its actual worth. They're saying it costs 3 cents to produce a penny, 14 cents to produce a nickel. So they're going to get rid of the penny first and then keep going up, up, and up. And
they want to get rid of hard money. That's why you got to invest in it now. Invest in silver. That thing has the potential.
You can make money investing in cryptocurrency and all that, and that's great, but it's not for what you think it is.
You got to diversify your funds. Don't put it all in crypto. First, start out with your house. Get a house. Get a home. Number one. And then you can start putting in other things. But the number one thing is your castle. And then you go from there. And I just like investing in tangible things that I can hold, that I can do something with that builds value over time. Cryptocurrency is weird. I'm starting to dip into it, my pinky toe, just a little bit. We'll see. But diversifying. Silver is still so cheap. It's $30 for an ounce of silver. An ounce of gold is around $2,700. 1 ounce of gold per 10 ounces of silver. So in reality, silver should be somewhere around $300 an ounce, $200 an ounce, but it's kept down low. It still has so much room to blast off. Highly recommend. Go buy some silver.
Because if they get rid of the dollar and cash, then you're going to want to have something outside of having to get the chip and digital currency.
But we're not going to get the chip. No one's going to get the chip. Everyone's watching Severance. No one wants a chip in their brain. There's no way. And that's also just taking you one step closer to the devil. And no one wants that too.
So I wanted to end with this quote from Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychologist and philosopher. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again for tuning into this episode. To stay on top of everything we're doing, from news updates, new episodes, and new merch drops, follow us on X, Rumble, and YouTube by searching It Can't Be a Joke.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and comment on your preferred streaming platform, and check out our merch shop in the show notes below. We are always open to hearing your ideas on how we can make the world a better place and bring down this elitist cabal trying to control every aspect of our lives. Despite the forces we are up against, band together and don't stop looking up.